When I was researching you, I felt like we had so much in common because I learned that you stepped into your family business and then you found yourself completely burnt out and living a life that didn't feel aligned with where you were then. And that's exactly what happened to me. 6 years ago my dad passed away. I took over his company and then it sent me into like such burnout, which then led me to perimenopause and the company as itself. So tell me about you. What did that season feel like for you? And how did it set you on this totally new path?
This is something I don't really talk about a lot. And I also want to know, what business did you take over? What were you doing? I want to know that.
Okay, we can get to that.
Okay, good. Okay, so I took over my parents' company. They used to own a mitten company. So they would repurpose old wool sweaters into luxury wool accessories like mittens and socks and hats and things like that. And they did that for 5 years. And then I got divorced. I am an entrepreneur. I had owned a toy company back in my 20s. And so I was looking for something new and I took over. It was perfect. They were moving to Arizona to take care of my grandma. My grandpa had passed away. And so I jumped right in and I loved it. I loved it. I got to work with women. I hired women to work from home. I mean, it was exhilarating. I rode the wave of the Bernie Sanders mitten craziness. We were the only company online to be selling wool mittens from sweaters. And so I rode that viral wave. And then the mask thing, we rode that crazy train. And I thought that I was going to do that forever. And I can't quite tell you what exactly happened. I just started realizing that it was really hard for me to get into the warehouse. It was really took a lot for me to like actually go to work. It felt like it wasn't working anymore. And I was just spinning my wheels like, do we need to do more social media? Do we need to do more marketing here? Do we need to hire different people? Do we need a bigger warehouse? Do we need new products? It just felt like it was spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spending a shit ton of money to try to, make it work. It just, the harder I tried, it felt like the worse things got. I did end up going to like this Goldman Sachs small business program. And they did an evaluation of my company. And basically, out of 40 other students, they were like, you have the biggest potential. Like, you should just go for it. You could be a cotopaxi. And I was like, nah, I'm good. And that's when I knew. I was like, I just spent like 15 weeks in this intensive small business program on a, scholarship situation, evaluating my company if I should go for it. I have really professional people telling me, yes, absolutely go for it. You could be like multi-million dollar company. And I was like, I just don't want to. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, then we have to be done. And so then, of course, everyone's like, you got to sell it. So then I start trying to find buyers. And I literally, even then, I was like, I just don't want to even find buyers. Like, I just need to be done. And I was sitting at a farmer's market and selling mittens. And my soul was like, we got to go. Like, we have to get up and leave now. And I was like, it's noon. We got 4 more hours. We got to sit our ass in this chair for 4 more hours. Like, we can't just pack up and leave in the middle of this farmer's market. And I just was sick to my stomach. Something that I absolutely loved had become this like horror. I mean, and there was no reason for it. I just couldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
And I was really angry about it, really sad about it. But I had also practiced trusting my soul. And this felt like a big moment to like really trust her. And if she was saying that we can't be here, then I was going to let it ride. And I was the breadwinner of the family. And we're walking into mitten season. And I finally just said, okay, I'm going to trust it. And on a Wednesday, I sent an email to my 40,000 customers saying, we will be closed in 24 hours. Buy what you want. And thanks for being here. We sold every single thing on the website, and that was that. Now we're closed. So that's that.
Wow. Wow. What a journey.
Craziest part about this is that the very next day, um, I turned my phone on to TikTok, which I wasn't doing anything on TikTok. And I randomly, out of nowhere, shared my story of going through perimenopause, finding hormone therapy. And that one video went to 9 million views in 24 hours.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So just immediately started your next path.
My soul was like, we're going over here. I had no idea. I could not have seen that coming. No clue. I mean, literally the day before, I'm like at a market selling mittens. And the next day, I'm like the face of perimenopause, which I didn't even know that was a word. And here we are 3 years later. This is what I'm doing now. It's wild.
I love that. I love it. I want to go back because I read something that you said. You were reading all these entrepreneurial books. They were all written by men and they're about your customer, and you're like, you've got to serve your customer and serve your customer. And you were like, um, well, as women, we have been doing that our whole lives. And I really related to that. I was doing the same thing right before I started Not Young, listening to everything I could, reading everything I could. They're all written by men. And it's like, you have to know your why, and your why is your customer. And I brought that to my husband and was like, I know I know my why should be my customer. I know that, but it doesn't feel like that to me. And I was like, I feel like my why is myself. It feels like my why is me. This is what I need. And this is what I think needs to be in this space. And I'm hoping other people can connect with that. And so when I read that from you, I was immediately like, yes. So tell me about that. How did that shift for you?
I love that we share this perspective because I think it's
I
really
know.
complicated to explain it. But
Hmm.
when other women get it, you get it. And this is how I kind of came to this situation is I would be reading, I have it right here. It's the 4 agreements. And one of the agreements is to, I think it's like always do your best or something like that. And this is what triggered these new ideas because I am now having this global view of women trying to do their best. And for me, trying to do my best was literally almost dying. I mean, it was literally losing myself to the point that I could not get out of bed, right? I mean, doing my best in my marriage was totally destructive to who I was. Doing my
Mm,
best in, I mean, just think about doing your best in birthing a child. You're going to literally almost die. That
yeah.
is a woman's level of her best, right? Like, we don't even know where the limit is because we would die for our child. So, us doing our best is death.
Mm,
And I was like, I don't think that telling a woman to do her best, I don't think that's good for us. These principles of being the best human always say you have to serve others. That has to be the top of your list. Well, if you take someone that they already do that naturally, it's built in, and you're constantly giving, 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 the better principle for that person to be a whole human would be to love yourself, treat yourself, right? Like the thing that you're not focused on. If you're always focused on everybody else, then for you to be a whole human, it's really hard for you to actually take care of yourself. And if you were a person that takes and takes and takes, well, then the principle for you to be a whole person would be to give. And you just have to get to know yourself well enough to know which principle needs to be like that highest priority. But again, to tell women like serve others constantly forever, it is destroying women. It
mm,
really is. And we think that
mhm,
we're selfish for flipping the script. But what I have found, as much as I lean into myself, it actually makes me a more whole person. And it allows me to be a better mother. It allows my family to experience me
mm,
so much more than just like a dish doer and a laundry doer and a dinner maker, right? They experience who I am. And the same happens as an entrepreneur, right? I think we get so caught up in the product that we are producing and the customer's needs that we forget that we individually are the product of life. Right? Like at the end of the game, we are the product.
Mm.
And we get so stuck on having the resilience and the grit and the never giving up in the business to the point that we're losing ourselves, that we
Yes.
forget that we are the end result, not the company reaching $5 million, us being a whole person and living in peace and joy and flow is the product. So if your company is killing you, that is going against everything that we're actually trying to do here.
Chills. You spoke to me on every level. It was perfect. So that leads me into motherhood parenting. That's a part of your story as well, a main part of your story. And so, one story I'd love to dive into, if it's comfortable for you, it was something you shared about your daughter. She moved out when she was 15 to go live with her dad. And you said that that felt like a personal failure. And I can imagine just how painful that would have been. But can you share what that time was like and then how that really also flipped a script for you? You also learned so much from that.
Yeah, if there was one thing that broke me awake, I think it was that. That was that pivotal moment that finally I couldn't fix it by doing all the right things, right? When my husband had an affair and I had to get
Okay.
divorced, I knew I could go get a new husband. Right. I could put my life
Yeah.
back together. I could get a new husband. I get another house. I could put my life back together. I could check all the boxes. I could be wife again. And when I lost a job, I was like, well, I just go get a new job, right? Like you can check all the boxes. And normally when things go wrong, you can just go fix it.
Yeah.
When you lose a child, whether to death or to just life
Yeah.
situations where they don't
Right.
want to associate with you anymore, you don't get to fix that. I mean, in a sense of like, you don't get to go replace your child.
Right.
There's no amount of anything that you can do that just, well, we'll just move on. Like there's none of that. And I had this crazy moment, and this is back when I was very religious. And so I'll say this story in the context of what I experienced it at that point in time. So I
Yeah.
got on my knees and prayed to God. What do I do? Don't know what to do. I've done everything I possibly can do. Help, help, help. And my inspiration was do nothing. Let me take over. I will fix it. I was like, great. Good job, God. That sounds like a good plan. I hate the doing nothing thing, but I can do that. So I didn't text her. I didn't bring her notes. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't give her money, nothing. For about, I would say like 2-3 weeks. And in that time frame, things got significantly worse, much, much worse. And to the point that I was in a hospital with her. And I went back to God and I was very angry. And I
Mhm.
just said, basically, like you said, if I did nothing, you were going to fix this and you didn't. And I'm jumping back in because obviously you're not doing it right. And very clearly, I felt this very clear inspiration of like, see, I am a perfect parent. I offered her everything that she could possibly need. And because of the way she's created and the way I built her, she can just not want it.
Mm.
And that says nothing about who I am, which means you're a perfect parent. Even with all the things that you call are flaws, I built you that way for her. And she can just not want it because that's how she is. And it shifted everything for me. It made it all of a sudden that I could have been the perfect wife, even with all my flaws, and he could just not want it. I could be the perfect employee, including flaws, right? We think perfect with like flawless. No, like even your flaws create opportunity and create learning and create, experiences. And I thought, holy crap, if I'm exactly right with everything where I'm at right now, she is too. And who am I to judge her experience? Who am I to say that she's doing it wrong? I mean, we know a million people that take their stories and turn them into books and movies. And like, you take the extreme of like drug addicts and, people that are crazy and turn it into their entire life's work. And so who am I to get in the way of how this girl wants to do her journey? And all of a sudden, people became illuminated to me that people were exactly right, however they were. And it just suddenly took the joy out of all of it. And I mean, that was a long time ago. She's 20 years old now. And 2 weeks ago, I got back from, she lives in Sweden now and speaks Russian and speaks Swedish. And I went to Europe and went clubbing with my daughter across Berlin and Amsterdam. And like, holy hell, like I had no idea that that would be in the works. And thank goodness I got out of the way of, what I thought was being a good parent and a good mom. I had to set all of that aside and just be. And I think if more women got out of the way of what they think is being a good parent,
Mm.
it would just be so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, well,
In this society, we've grown up with parenting books and a lot of people and therapists telling us how to be good parents. And so we do think that there is this ideal system of being a good parent. And I think it's time that we really scrap that and trust ourselves and
mm,
trust the love that we give and how we love and how we care for every individual child, right? I think we want to do this blanket thing where we're like, this is the kind of parent I am. Stop doing that. Just be you and show up for your children individually as they need you to show up for them, just like you do for your friends. You don't show up to every friend exactly the same. No, you show up in your friendship totally different for that person. And I think we need to do that so much more for our children.
yeah, definitely. And it's so easy too to like tie their well-being and their choices to ourselves and to how we did as a parent, right? If they make a choice that doesn't align with what we taught them, then we've somehow failed and we've got to fix it.
It's also a form of like boosting our own ego, right?
Yeah,
If we end up with a kid that listens to us and does all the right things, then we win. We
right.
win. We
We
are a good mom. And if we don't, then we are a failure. And which means we're claiming all of their failures and their successes. That's not fair. And why are we doing
right.
that? Why? Because we aren't in our own life doing life ourselves. We're doing life through our own
Mm,
kids. So the
mm,
more you get into your own life, right now, me and my kids, we are experiencing life on a parallel. My son is 17, and when we sit down and chat, he asks me, "What's going on in your life? What's good? What's bad? What's happening?" We get to like cheer each other on and have these exciting moments. I'm going to his gig, he's in a band, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, you're going to speak in Orlando? This is so exciting." Right? We're doing life together. I'm not just here giving him dinner so he can do his life. And I
yeah,
think more moms getting into their own life will be able to have life alongside their children.
yeah, yeah. Great. Okay, let's go back. You talked about being religious. You were raised in the Mormon faith, and I don't know, I could be reading it wrong. It sounds like maybe you're not now. I'd love to hear about how that shaped your worldview and then maybe the deconstruction of it, if you're okay sharing that.
Absolutely. I mean, this is probably like a whole podcast series of talking about, I'd have to pick out a few pieces of this, but I was just thinking about like an epiphany I had this morning. And this is, again, just these little pieces. When you're raised in a religion that tells you there is one right way, they hand you all the answers your whole life. One of the things that's fascinating is that you don't actually know if you're a good person because all you've ever done is follow the rules. And you think that if you don't follow the rules, you will default to being a bad person. So you actually think that you're a bad person unless you follow the rules. And I remember I was 19. I was a nanny in New York. I was nannying older kids, like 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. And this 14-year-old, they're not religious at all. I had never been in an environment where people weren't religious. And I remember asking her, and I'm still so embarrassed to tell the story because this like 19-year-old, very naive Mormon girl asked this 14-year-old, what keeps you from like stealing and lying and hurting people? And I remember I will never forget the look on her face. She looked at me like I was the biggest idiot. She's like, because I'm a good person. And I remember just that hitting me so hard that I realized I didn't know if I was a good person. I literally had no idea because I thought if religion fell out and none of these rules existed, I had none of these like this straight narrow path to follow, that I would default to being bad. And I think that principle alone has been so bizarre at 40 years old, to try to trust that I am not going to default to being a bad person. And that has been really weird, right? Like if I'm not saying my prayers, I'm not going to church every week, and I'm not reading my scriptures, and I'm not going to the temple, and I'm not teaching my children on Monday family home evening nights of all the things we're supposed to be teaching, I'm trusting that I'm still a good person. And that has been like free falling, just trusting that you're not going to die. Like it's very weird. And you're learning how to trust your own consciousness, because my religion would teach that if you felt a certain way, that was Satan, or if you felt this way, then that was God. But then if you felt a different way, then Satan would try to trick you into thinking that was good, but it was actually bad. And then you had to figure out like, well, what is me, and what is God, and what is Satan, and what is like the Holy Spirit? There was like 4 consciousness like in you. And so you never understood how to trust your own judgment. And then what do you do when your judgment up to this point has told you that this religion is true, and now it's not? How do you know what is real and what's not? You don't. So now all you have to do is go try things like you're a child, right? So they're walking down trying things and then sitting with it and being like, does that feel okay for me? Is that authentic to me? Is that okay with me? It's not a matter of right and wrong, or does this go along with my religion, or is this okay with the principles I've been taught? You just have to sit in this like by yourself, drinking a glass of wine and being like, do I feel bad because of shame? Am I truly okay with this? Or is my spirit like, no, we actually don't like this. And you have to untangle all of it. And it's super complicated. So, I mean, I go on and on, but one of the weirdest things about coming out of Mormonism for me is that, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in Mormonism, when you go through the temple, you commit to wearing garments, religious garments. And so it's like a little T-top underneath your, you wear them under your clothes, and then like long silky shorts. It's your underwear. And I wore those since I was 20 years old, and I always thought that they were special. The idea is that when you put them on in the morning, you're committing to the commandments, and you're kind of giving yourself to God every day and saying, I'm holy, my body is holy, and I will protect myself, and I would keep myself chaste. Okay. And I always thought it was special. And there was this crazy moment that after I left Mormonism, I was like, oh, I have to learn how to wear underwear. Like, I don't even own a pair of regular panties, right? Like, I don't even know, like, what does that even feel like to wear panties under jeans, right? Like, and just go to movies. And I was at the movie theater and went to the bathroom, and I'm sitting on the toilet, and there is butterfly, like these cute butterfly panties around my knees. And it caught my breath. I can never tell this story. It caught my breath. And I was like, I'm pretty. I'm a girl. And I like butterfly panties. And I didn't know that. And I realized that in that moment that the garments for me, as much as I believed they were special, they actually were making me vanilla. They made me invisible. They stole my body from me. I didn't see me. I was protecting myself, thinking that I was bad and that if you saw too much of me, that that would be immoral. That if I showed my shoulders, that that would be offensive. That my own body was offensive. That's insane. And I felt like that in the stall of the movie theater bathroom. I became from black and white to color, and it just, I can never get over it. It's just crazy what religion can do to you. And yeah, I mean, those are tiny principles and tiny experiences that have made a difference in my life. And now it's, yeah, I live my life like I am on the planet for the first time. It's crazy.
I love that. And I think even, those of us who were not raised Mormon, we can still relate to those feelings. And I really appreciate you sharing that, which does lead me to my next question, which is about awakening. And you even said something when you were telling the story about your daughter. You said it broke me awake. And I love that sentiment right there. There are so many of us who are in midlife and we're really kind of living our lives on autopilot. We're asleep at the wheel, we're just doing the things that need done. So, talk about what that awakening looked like for you. And then how did you start to really notice those thoughts?
Well, back to, having my daughter move out, I think that was something that broke me because I couldn't apply all the same principles that had put my life back together. And I think the idea of like, oh, the idea of being a good mom doesn't exist now because I cannot apply all the good mom principles to the situation. So now what? And I think that just led to this idea of like, okay, if good mom isn't true, then good wife isn't true, then good girl isn't true. And then who the hell am I? So like, I have no list. I have no list of what to do that's going to make everything okay. And that made me desperate to find the tiniest existence of me that would never get destroyed, right? Like if
Mm,
my house blew up, my money went away, everybody on the planet hated me, I wanted to know down to, I didn't care if it was just a pinpoint of existence. I needed to know what was indestructible. I needed to know who I was with nothing. And
yeah.
I don't know where that idea came from, but it was COVID. And I would wake up and I would sit and just try to pray and read scriptures and meditate and just try to like dig into myself of like, who is that and where is she? I would put on a timer and I'd be like, we're going to think of nothing. We're going to turn all the thoughts off and we're going to do nothing because we got to find her without the thoughts. And I would give up so many times. I mean, it was weeks that I would try to do this. I tried the breathing thing. I tried going to yoga. I tried listening to meditations. And I guess it's just the principle of like trying and trying and trying. And then one day it just clicks. And one day I just sat there breathing. And then I went into nothingness. And when you do that, it's enough to know that you're in the nothingness, but you're also just nowhere and everywhere. And it was just for a second. But when I hit that space, something shifted in my existence forever, because I realized I exist. I exist without my body. I exist without thought. I exist without my home. I exist without all of my titles. I exist without being a mom. I exist without anything. And when you know that you exist without anything, you get to play in the world differently because you're not chasing a damn thing. And I have chased things my whole life, chased love, chased men, chased money, chased success, chased the titles, chased the perfect habits, chased trying to be the right daughter of God, all of it. And when you know you exist, then everything just becomes for fun because you're not trying to become anything. You're a whole thing. You're all the love, you're all the being that all of us chase, thinking we're trying to like piece ourselves back together or collect ourselves. And then at the end of our life, we'll have put the whole puzzle together or something. What if people were taught that you're whole from the very get go and that you're just here to experience life? and you're here to feel things. And for me, waking up, I guess, this idea of my soul being like, hey, I'm here, I'm in here, and I'm whole, and I know who I am, and I know why I'm here, and we don't have to be searching for ourselves. I'm here. That has changed how I exist in this human experience. It feels like Disneyland. Like there's not, you wouldn't go to Disneyland and they would never tell you like, okay, here we go. We're going to be at Disneyland and you need to protect yourself from this place because when you are done with this place, there's something way better on the other side called heaven. You can just hang out here, but protect yourself from it because you need to save yourself for the heaven place because that's where the actual joy is. I think a lot of us live our life like that. Like, no, we are in Disneyland right now. Like, we're in it. We are experiencing it. Like, what if this is heaven and we are going to miss it because we think heaven's on the other side? My grandma just passed away a month ago. And at her funeral, her regret was she would have had more fun. My grandma was the most stalwart, most dedicated, most faithful member of the LDS church that I know. And that woman died very sad. And I thought if the religion that I believe in or believed in produces that for a woman that is that faithful, no, thank you. And it also made me commit to having a hell of a lot more fun on her behalf. So if you see me completely unhinged, I blame grandma.
That's great. You're so right though. You're so right. And I've seen that. I saw you were like dressed in leather and like we're going to pole dance or something and I was like, "Yes. She's doing
We
it. She's living."
I mean, I was in an underground Berlin club that was like dark. It was an old prison. It felt like this haunted house, and I am with my 1-year-old. She is speaking full on Russian. We're drunk. We are dancing our ass off. And if that is not living, I don't know what the hell is because we were living our best life and we were connecting on a level that we would have never connected on had we both stayed on this like really restrictive straight and narrow path. And I know people are listening to this and thinking like, well, that's not true joy because that's what I would have thought. I would have thought that's shallow joy. If you are drunk with your daughter and you're partying at a club, I would have said that. I've been like, that's not real joy. I would challenge you to say, then what is? Sitting at a kitchen table, folding your arms, praying, is that real joy? No, I'd rather be on the floor laughing my ass off until I'm almost peeing my pants, high on mushrooms, because, right, like, that is living. Like, we forget how to laugh, we forget how to enjoy each other, we forget how to have these deep, connective, like, dig your trauma out conversations. We just are so focused on, like, getting to the end of life so we can get to heaven that we're missing it.
Yeah. So I want to really dig into perimenopause. I don't want to put you in a box and say that's your thing, but you are great at talking about it. But before we do, I have also heard you talk about sex and shame, and you're really good at sharing about that. And I do think that there's a lot of women who can relate to that. So I'm going to let you take over and talk
I
about
have
sex with us.
so much to say about some things that I've never shared before, so buckle in.
Please.
But
I'm ready.
so this is so wild because I hoped that when I left religion, that outside of my religion, the world was different in the area of sexual shame. And I have found that it's absolutely not different. I went through like a lot of mourning feeling like there's nowhere to run. I thought I left and then I just got back into it. It just feels horrible, but there is sexual shame in all of us from history, women's bodies have been kept a secret from ourselves. We are not allowed to be sexual because then we're too slutty. I mean, we all know what we're talking about when we talk about sexual shame, to the point that I don't think a lot of us even know how bad it is.
Yeah.
I think most women can relate to feeling, especially if you're married, you feel like sex is a chore. that it is part of your marital duties to fulfill his needs. And I never saw anything morally wrong with that, which is crazy to say. It's disgusting when you step back and think about it, that
It's
our
gross.
bodies are, I would say, they're like a toaster for someone to put a Pop-Tart in. And if they're not working right, we just need like a little lube to like, make sure the dials work. Like, that's insane. Our bodies are not for another person's pleasure. I mean, women's bodies have a clitoris, and the only purpose of a clitoris is literally pleasure. There is no other purpose. And just like I was saying to someone the other day, I said, just like you have teeth, teeth are a necessity for you to be able to chew your food and have nutrients go into your body so that you can be living. So why do we have teeth? Because they're a necessity. Why do we have a clitoris? Because pleasure must be a necessity of living. It is medicine to our bodies. It is medicine to our brains, to our souls. I don't understand why we were not taught from a young age that this is your button to reduce pain, to get better sleep, to reduce anxiety, to better your skin, to improve your mood, to like, it does a million things. Instead, we're like given antidepressants. And it's crazy because back in history, you can read that women having orgasms was actually a medical treatment for hysteria. And
Really?
somehow we just like shut that down and we decided, no, we're not allowed to talk about orgasms like they're in the health category. Like, if you're upping your protein, you should also be upping your orgasm. It's part of a healthy body. And yet, this comes from a girl who is literally at 30 years old, sat in an office with a religious leader who's probably 45, and me confessing my sin of self-pleasure. Like, I didn't own a vibrator until my mid-30s because it was a sin. And I have found that leaning into desire and passion and what my body wants, it lights me up more than anything else. I mean, just energetically. And there's this idea that when you are a light, we learn this in a lot of religious speaking, right? Like, light the world. You have this light. Don't hide it under the bushel, right?
Right.
Like, share your light. When you have sexual energy about you, you walk differently, you listen to music differently. It is that feeling where you like roll the windows down and the music is loud and you're screaming at the top of your lungs. Like, that is your sexual energy. That's desire and passion. And I don't think we link the two very well, right? We shame the
Right.
sexual, but then we're supposed to also feel lit up. I feel like they have to go hand in hand. And when you light yourself, something magic happens. You become this lighthouse, this beacon where things start finding you without you chasing them. You go from standing in your own body, just being this light, and stuff just shows up. Everything that you have seen over the last 3 years of my life just became. It just showed up. And you know what I try to do? Clear space. So I clear out fear, I clear out grief, I clear out doubt. Not like mute it, but I work through it. Try to figure out, where does this need to go? How do I work through this? I even physical space, clear out my closet, clear out my shit, right? Like, clear out friendships, clear out stuff that just feels like bulky and yuck. And I also work on lighting my soul with new experiences, sexual experiences, self-pleasure, because it manifests people and things and experiences showing up for you. Sorry, that was a lot, but
I loved it. I did not expect it to go in that direction. It was perfect.
The other principle I think is if you have gotten married really young and the only thing you were ever taught was that you're a girl and you're going to marry a man and this man is going to save you. And, I mean, we all grew up on Disney. We believed in the prince. We did. I'm kind of pissed off that it's not true. I'm pissed off that the man on the white horse isn't coming to save us. And if you are waking up in midlife, I think there is a lot of things that are starting to get into women's brains where you're thinking, how could I have known that I was, what if I'm into girls? I wouldn't have known that. It wasn't even like a principle or a question or an option or a choice. I think a lot of women are finding out that they are either bisexual or lesbian in this later in life thing because we never asked. We never
Mm.
even asked. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, why isn't this man and this experience fulfilling to me? And then you're starting to freak out, like, what do I do with this? And I think women starting to ask themselves questions can be terrifying. We talk about waking up, right? And I always say that if you smelled smoke and you thought maybe your house is on fire, but you were too scared to go see it and you just went back to bed, you would die along with everybody else in your house. It is terrifying to be aware. It's terrifying to get out of bed and go see that your house is on fire. But that is the very thing that keeps you alive. It's the very thing that helps you save everybody else and get everyone else alive. And as scary as it is to dig into yourself, to see yourself, to find yourself, experience yourself, you might lose your marriage. You might lose your job. You might shift perspectives. You might end up in a world that you've never lived in before. But isn't that better than living as a zombie? It's so much better. My theme right now is at least I'm not boring. That's my theme. Like when things go bad and it's not great, I'm like, well, I'm not boring. And I just think I want to encourage women to like lean into the fear of seeing whatever it is that's in you because you're worth seeing, you're worth knowing, you're worth loving. And I really do believe that all the things that we're actually chasing ourselves and we've never thought about it. We are the love that we're looking for. We are the adventure we're looking for. We're the thrill. We are the whole package. And I want to live in a world where more women fall madly in love with themselves. And then everything else is just bonus. So, and that's a long explanation for all of that, but I brought it all around.
It was so good. You're so right. I think the theme throughout so much of what you've been talking about is how little we actually do like know ourselves, you know? We hang our hats on all of these things that define us. But you're right, those can all be gone in an instant and they're not actually who we are. So we're always living for somebody else or something else. I have so much more. Like I had tons of stuff we were going to talk about, but then you did
Like,
that and I'm like,
I don't know.
it's the best place to end because I feel like what you shared was so powerful that to even dig into like perimenopause symptoms just doesn't feel
Well, okay, hold on. I do want to say,
congruent.
because in my last company, I was speaking about joy and I was public speaking. I wrote my book, not knowing anything about perimenopause. I was unmotivated, I was doing all these things. And I
Yeah.
want to say all of these things that I said, if a woman is listening to this and she's feeling awakened and hopeful and exhilarated, but tomorrow you can't get out of bed or your body hurts so bad that you can't even dance, right? Like you don't even want to.
Yeah.
This is where perimenopause comes in because you can read all the good books, you can listen to all the motivating podcasts. But if your testosterone is like a negative zero, it's like in the toilet, progesterone is nil, you're not sleeping, your bones hurt, you're
Mhm.
out of your mind, you can't remember anything, then no amount of this awesome podcast and my fun stories can really do much for you if your brain cannot function and do anything with it. And I think that's where it is actually way more important than I thought it was because I did think if I listened to all the right podcasts and I listened to all the books and I worked out better, and then then I will be awakened and happy. And this is what I say. I always say, hormones are going to turn your body back on. They're going to awaken your body. For me, it was a lot of therapy and doing new things, and the sexual experiences and mushrooms woke up my soul. So you
Okay.
need both. You
Okay.
absolutely
Yeah.
need both, because we can awaken your soul. My soul was awake. I knew who I was. I had peace. I had developing relationships. I was like in it. My body would not get out of bed. It was like my body didn't match
Mm,
my soul. And so if you're experiencing, I'm going to run through real fast for you.
yeah. Yeah.
Itchy ears, everything hurts, your shoulders hurt, your scalp is dry, you're not sleeping, hot flashes, night sweats, weird things like things taste different. You have new anxieties. Driving anxiety is a really big one. Waking up specifically at like 2 or 3 in the morning, it's pretty damn specific. You're gaining weight
Hmm.
right around your middle, but you haven't changed anything. Your body odor is different. You like smell like onions or a teenage boy, right? Like all of a sudden you have smelly feet and you didn't have smelly feet before. Your eyes are itchy. Your vagina's all dried up. You're having frequent UTIs. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If you're 35 and 50, you're in it. This is it. If you are like, oh crap, I'm in perimenopause, you can find help if you go to wakeherup.co. That is a huge list. It's a directory of hormone therapists and a community of over 60,000 women. And that's where you can find help and support and more information.
This was incredible. It was so good. It was better than I could have hoped for. And you were so honest and thoughtful and passionate about what you shared. And I want to thank you so much for doing that. And also, where can we find you? Where can we buy your book, support you, all the things?
You can find Wake Her Up on Amazon. You can also go to marcellahill.com and buy it there. It's on Audible as well. And then you can find me on social media at being Marcella Hill. And then obviously just wakeherup.co kind of has all the things. So yeah. You are so
Incredible.
kind. I again want to thank you for allowing me to share so many things that I don't typically get to share. And you made me feel very seen. So thank you so much.